Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a stellar early spring morning here on the south coast of England. Been waiting all winter for conditions like this. Been flat for a couple of days. There's not been much swell, the sun's out. Unfortunately, bass season doesn't open for another week, so if I see bass out here today, just have to leave them be. But hopefully there might be some early season pollock, some bream. I might even take a wrasse as well, just for ceviche, because there's not a whole lot else out here to target. But beautiful conditions, swimming about 2 and a bit kilometers straight out offshore here. Conditions don't get much better than this, apart from when it's summer and the water's not 8 degrees. But other than that, perfect. I think I can see the bottom, which is absolutely ridiculous for this time of year. Makes me very excited.
Just a couple of dives, I didn't see too many signs of life, aside from some wrasse. This time of year can be difficult to find fish.
Only a few wrasse kicking about, but the viz is just so nice. So I'm gonna go check a spot that I've seen pollock at before, and also bream. Hopefully there's something there. But just so nice to be in some decent visibility for once in my life. I've got some spots marked in my GPS that I usually check out, and I always like to try and look at some new spots every time I'm out, even if it's maybe unproductive, but one day you just might find a really good hole. Always worth it. I always endeavour that every time I go diving, I try and dive something I haven't dived before. And you'll always just slowly increase your knowledge of the area. And even if you don't find something good, at least you find something that you know is not worth going to, and then it sort of cancels that out of your plan. So any intelligence is good intelligence.
I was snooping along some holes, hoping and not hoping to find bass. Of course, they would be safe from me being out of season, but it's always nice to see them. This pollock caught my eye, but I only had my 75, so needed to get close if I wanted a chance at shooting it.
Seen a couple pollock, one that I wanted to shoot, but couldn't get onto it with a 75. I mean, in this visibility, I could easily be using a 90, which is what I'd use in summer, but I didn't expect it to be so good. So I'm going to move up to another hole that I know of and then fish around that area. So pretty cool to see some life this really early on in the season. The water's 8 degrees Celsius, which is quite chilly, to be honest, on my feet and my 3-wheel socks, but you got to do what you got to do.
After checking a few holes that were empty, I moved to a place I'd seen bream before. No bream today, but the pollock did come and have a look.
Always good when a plan comes together. Nice little pollock here. They don't really get too much bigger in Sussex than this, unless you go way offshore on wrecks and stuff like that, but this is a really nice size one for here. Might try to see if I can get one more, but that's Fish and Chip Friday sorted. Hannah and I will have a fillet of that each. Sensational. So good. Very happy after persisting out here in 8-degree water, holding in my aqua turn, just trying to get one of these, and they just came into that dive perfectly. They were behind me, so I had to roll over nice and slow, but there's another one down there that's a good size like this as well, so I might see if I can get another one.
Immediately on my way to the bottom, I can see pollock, but I want to look through the shoal to find that standout fish I saw on the previous dive. I can see it heading from left to right behind this big rock, so I'm going to try and use that as cover to close the gap.
Well, that concludes it. That's a much nicer fish. It was a bit of a long shot. I knew that I was a bit too far away for my 75, so I tried to sneak around a rock and ambush it, and then it was tailing away, and I just put in a few big kicks and got it in here and out the front. So happy days, 2 nice winter fish. Well, early spring, winter, it's March, so yeah, looking forward to bass season being open next week. Time to swim in. That was a great little swim. Well, not so little because I've got 2 kilometers till I get back to shore, but great day out. Sun's gone, but oh well. The result of a long shore dive. 2 nice fish here. Can't wait to eat these. Fish and chip Friday, sorted.
That was a really fun shore dive, and it was great to get out and actually shoot some fish again, not just go scalloping or lobstering that I have been doing over the winter. As mentioned in the title of this video, I was using a different camera to what I normally use. Now, full disclosure, Insta360 reached out to me around July or August last year and said, hey, do you want to try our new action camera out? No strings attached. If you like it, maybe you can talk about it or make a video. If you don't like it, no problem at all. I said, sure, no money has changed hands. And as you can see, I have not been really active on this channel for the last 6 months. And I've been diving a little bit, but I haven't been able to get this camera in the water too much, apart from my trip to Norway and a couple little dives during the start of the year, but it hasn't been a really good test for it. So now that I'm out actually diving a bit more, I've been able to put it through its paces, and I'm pleasantly surprised. Initially, I didn't really want to like this camera because I've seen so many things online about Insta360 paying creators to make videos about it and them not really disclosing that they're getting paid to do it. So full disclosure, I'm not getting paid a cent. They've just sent me a camera, but the image that comes out of it is actually pretty good. I've used action cameras since 2012, from the GoPro 3 all the way to the 10, and more recently the DJI Osmo Action series. This is the 3 that I've been using the last couple of years, which has been a fantastic camera for me. So I thought, why not try something different? One of the biggest things for me on action cameras on my head is reliability, which is what led me away from GoPros. They have just always been plagued with software problems from the 3 all the way to the 10. Everyone I've had in between has just been pretty rubbish at one stage or the other. And I've been sitting on top of rocks in New Zealand with my Hero 10, taking it out of the housing, pulling the battery out, all sorts of stuff to try and reset it. So after I got this DJI Osmo Action 3, I can hand on heart say I have never ever had this freeze up on me. This thing has just been an absolute workhorse. To be honest, the image isn't as good as I could make my GoPro 10. Now, I haven't used any of the newer GoPros, but this one has been super reliable, so I'll take getting something and risk not having it as good a quality than the GoPro that will freeze up and you get nothing. So this has been great, and this Insta360 Ace Pro 2 has actually been really reliable. It hasn't missed a beat, it hasn't frozen on me, it hasn't
stopped recording, it hasn't done anything out of the ordinary except work, which is really fantastic. Now, when you compare these side by side, you can see that the Ace Pro 2 is significantly larger in size than the Osmo Action series. And does that make a difference? Well, it does make a difference when you're wearing it on your head and swimming around with it all the time. I really prefer having the smallest camera possible. I was really a big fan of the GoPro Hero 7 because that thing was tiny, but this weighs about 50 grams more, but it is significantly larger on the head, which is, you know, kind of a pain because it's getting quite big and bobbly on your head when you're spearfishing, but it still works. This one does have a flippy screen, so if you do your regular spearfishing, you'd probably have this down inside a case, but if you want to do some talking on a boat or land, you know, the flippy screen could be good if you're doing some vlogging style stuff. Personally, for a spearfishing camera, I don't do that at all, so it's irrelevant to me, so I'd probably rather them take that screen off and just have a pure action camera. But if you want a hybrid sort of action camera that you do some on-land stuff, it could be pretty useful, but for me, it's not a really big selling point. Another difference between these two cameras is the DJI has 10-bit color, while the Ace Pro 2 only has 8-bit color. What does that mean on a practical level? Well, basically, 8-bit color means that for every red, green, and blue value, you have 256 possible colors, and for 10-bit, you have 1,024 different colors, which means you have a much broader range of colors in your 10-bit footage. Now, I've shot some great stuff on 8-bit color cameras over the years, and yes, it's easier to color grade 10-bit footage, but if you shoot it well in camera, it's not a huge deal. So the Insta360 actually does a pretty good job of getting a really nice image in camera. I'm running this on pretty basic settings. I'm not using the log profile at all. I'm just using the in color settings, and it comes out really nice and kind of exactly how I would grade my DJI footage to look like this. So I'm quite impressed with that. One thing I will say is the Insta360 doesn't tend to handle the highlights really that well when you're coming up with a bright fish here, and it kind of blows out and looks a bit, I don't know, milky and hazy, but you get that with a lot of different cameras, but it's pretty noticeable in this one. And you can see some fringing on the edge of the fish here. That stuff's all pretty minor, and at the end of the day, we're expecting a tiny camera like this to do the job of a camera that's this big, and I think it's pretty cool what we can do with action cameras these days. The battery life on the Insta360, it seems pretty good. I turned the screen off, so it's not running while I'm diving because I don't need to see it, and it's been pretty good. It's been lasting me a full dive session, so relatively happy with that. One of the other selling points on the AP2 was that it has this low light night type mode, and I tested this out in Mexico in these cenotes in Tulum, and it looked all right. Don't get me wrong, it's not the cleanest, crispiest footage of my life, but for a tiny little action camera, it was really dark in there, so I thought it looked halfway decent. Out of the water, I haven't used it really that much at all on a boat. I've kind of only used it sitting on my head and looking out to sea, and you can see in this image here in Norway, it looks pretty good here. So like most action cameras, when they have a lot of light, they look really, really good. Like all action cameras these days, it does have the one button on mode where you press the button, camera turns on, starts recording, and you go down dive, and then you press the top button, it stops recording, and then it takes 5 seconds to shut down. You get this menu screen here at the back that says it's going to shut down. Then it's shut down and you're no longer recording. So that's that sequence. But the really cool thing here that I've never seen on any other action camera is it's got haptic feedback. So it's got a little vibrating thing inside. So when you first turn it on, you can feel that, which is really nice through your hood on your wetsuit. If you've got, you know, some waves crashing around and you can't really hear the beep if you've got a thick wetsuit on like me, if you're wearing a 7 or a 9mm wetsuit jacket, that's quite a handy little feature, which I really like. One other thing that I found with this camera is after a long time recording inside the housing, if you don't have these little moisture absorbing inserts that come with it, it does fog up. Now you can see this here at the end of this halibut video where the lens is all fogging up here because it's been running for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that. Normally with other action cameras like my DJI, I've never had that issue. I don't get the fogging inside the camera, but I don't know what it is about this producing excess heat or something. But yeah, that's just one thing to be aware of. You have to use those little inserts, otherwise it will fog up. So overall, would I recommend you go out and get this camera? Well, my opinion is it's a pretty good tool for what it is. It's a nice all-rounder. Is it the best purely spearfishing oriented action camera out there? Probably not the best for me because I like to color grade my footage in post, but for people that just want something that's nice out of the camera, this looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave a link to a clip here of me diving so you can just see what it looks like. You can download it and you can play with the footage in your post-production software if you'd like to, but just a sample clip of this footage. Another factor to consider is I haven't used a GoPro since the GoPro Hero 10. People have been telling me great things about the 11, 12, and the 13, but I'm just not ready to go back and buy one of those yet because I still hear they have lots of software issues. If I was going to get a camera tomorrow, I would probably get the Osmo Action 5 just because it's got a 4-hour battery life, which really suits me for spearfishing. I'm not sure what the image quality is like, but the Osmo Action 3 was pretty decent, and I've heard the 4 and 5 is even better. This one, you know what? The image that comes out of it without doing any messing around in post-production actually looks pretty decent, and it's probably easier to get a nice image out of this than my DJI camera, to be honest. I actually went diving again in the same place 6 days later, and it was still closed bass season, 31st of March, and I shot for pollock. And you can see here, the image that comes out of this camera looks pretty decent. Now, the clips I'm going to put here, I have done no color correction. This is purely out of the camera. I shoot this in 4:3, 4K at 50 frames per second, which is generally what I usually shoot when I'm going spearfishing, just because I can crop it for vertical or horizontal. But I must admit, it looks pretty good, and if I don't want to do any work to this and bother doing any color correction in post, it's a pretty good option for you. At the end of the day, is the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 any good? Yeah, it's a pretty decent action camera. It's reliable. I've never had it freeze on me or not record when I want it to. It has a decent image that comes out of the camera without having to do any work in post-production. It has that haptic feedback, so you can kind of feel it through your wetsuit that it's turned on. It's got decent battery life. That's always a good thing. And it's got a flippy screen if that's something that you're into. The Ace Pro 2 probably wouldn't be my first choice if I was to go out and buy a purely spearfishing camera that I use on my head, but if you do other sports like cycling or motocross or snowboarding or something like that and you also use an action camera, this camera does a lot of things well, but for me, just the size is the biggest downfall for me on top of my head. That's all I've got for you on this one. If you've made it all the way here, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.